So, hello everybody. Welcome back again. Here we are, the last Thursday of a month, having another wonderful opportunity to speak to somebody different and just hear a little bit about them, what they think that they'd like to share about themselves, what they'd like to share about leadership, about the impact that leadership can have on them as an individual, on an organization. And I'm feeling really excited because this is somebody I don't know well at all. This is somebody who is not sitting round the corner, but she's the other side of the world. So she's in Australia. She'll no doubt tell us which particular bit of Australia she's in at this moment because she's does move around a little bit. But I'm really excited about this. So Pam, welcome and thank you so much for joining me right from the other side of the world, which is when, of course, we're on a very different time scale. So for
Mm.
me, it's one time, and Pam's been kind enough to do at another somewhat crazy time so that we can do this. So, Pam, let's kick off by telling everybody a little bit, tell about who you are and a little bit of your background, or as much as you want to share. And then let's go from there. We have no idea where the conversation will go. And by the way, if anybody has got any things they want to share or any questions, please put them up. We may not be able to answer them all on here, but at least they'll be able to be answered later if not. So, Pam, lovely to see you. Welcome. And over to you.
You too. Thank you. I feel slightly on edge because Penny, I've been so immersed in your work for the last year or so. I've read your book twice. I've watched multiple webinars through the Marketing Academy, which I'll touch on later, podcasts, and all the videos for the CLP training. So this feels a little bit surreal to talk to you about the program. So yeah, it's thank you for asking me. It's great to come and have a chat. If the accent has not given it away yet, I am Irish. So I grew up in Cork in Ireland, and I spent my first 21 years of my life there. Grew up in Cork City, working class family, my two parents. I have an older sister and a younger brother. And yeah, kind of classic Irish upbringing. I went to school life was okay for me. I never really loved school. I did okay, but I think I was for the teacher at the front of the room, I was probably that girl that was sitting there, the good girl who was quiet and probably looked very switched on, but actually I wasn't taking much in at all. I was a bit of a daydreamer. And I got into like secondary school or high school, as they would say here in Australia, I found exams difficult. I just didn't really fit in with that type of learning. What I've learned much later in life at the age of 40 is I'm neurodivergent. So I actually have had a huge awakening of why I am the way I am in recent years, but never really loved school, never had any huge aspirations, didn't really know what I wanted to do with my life. So I went straight from school into the workforce. I've been doing jobs since probably I was about 12, newspaper runs, babysitting jobs, but started working officially part-time at the age of 15 in a pharmacy in Ireland. And I have never left the pharmacy industry since. So
Wow.
I've been in the same industry across Ireland and Australia. But yeah, looking back now, I think I didn't really have any clear goals or aspirations what I wanted to do. And I think my whole career journey has happened. It's just evolved over time, and I've been, fortunate to have different opportunities. Did go on to study much later in life as a mature student, but yeah, looking back then, kind of just wanted to get out of school, started earning money, thought that was great, had a bit of independence, and yeah, the rest has just kind of fallen into place. But at the age of 21, I traveled to Australia and I came for a year. My sister reminds me very often that I said I was going for 1 year, which I did. And that was the plan. But like many people from Ireland and the UK and all over, we come to Australia, we fall in love with the weather and the people and the lifestyle, and we stay. So yeah, at the age of 21, I came here and I'm in a few weeks, I'm 41. So it's been 20 years now. Been here for a really long time. Still not quite sure how I feel about next year when that's then the year where I've spent half my life here, and that seems a bit scary to me. But I do love it here. I love home will always be Ireland. I love going home. Love getting back to see the family and friends, and I miss it. But I've been here for so long. I'm very settled. I married an Aussie. I have three little boys here and a cavoodle, Molly. Had to mention the dog to you, Penny. So yeah, I'm settled here now, and love it. And it's Australia has been very good to me, and I've had yeah, great opportunities and met some great people. So yeah, that's I suppose just whizzed through the first 2 decades of my life, but have always been in the same industry, like I said, but I would say the work that I've done has changed dramatically. And since coming to Australia, I'm one of these unicorns. These people don't exist anymore, but I've also been with the same company the whole time I've been in Australia. So that is 19 August this year. I'll have been here 20 years, and I've been with the same company that whole time.
Oh my goodness.
Very rare, I know. But what I would say about that is it doesn't feel like the same company. The company I joined back then, and it's transformed, in many, many ways. And I've been very privileged to have the opportunity to have many different roles in my time here. So I've worn lots of different hats and learned lots of new things, and it's just been the best, yeah, the best experience. So. Uh, Today so I've been in the C-suite for I think this is my 6th year. So I'm currently the Chief Strategy and Innovation Officer at Blooms The Chemist. And Blooms The Chemist it's a national pharmacy brand in Australia. I work for the company that is essentially the support office. So each pharmacy, the industry here is highly regulated. Every pharmacy is owned by a pharmacist, and that pharmacist owner joins the brand in that they sign up to a license agreement, which has them be part of the brand, and then they benefit from the services that the company I work for offers, if that kind of makes sense. But awesome business, brilliant people, very focused on people's health and well-being and caring for the community. So yeah, it's a great place to work. Outside of that, I think I've already said I've got three little boys. So I've got a 7-year-old. Well, I keep saying he's seven. He's not yet. Soon he'll be seven. And then I have twins that are 4. So we had 3 kids under 3, which was a wild ride, and a little dog in there as well, all around the same time. And I would say in the last sort of in that time, really, I think becoming a mother was like the biggest transformational event that has happened to me in my life. And it's, we'll talk a bit, I'm sure we'll talk about the responsibility model, but a whole new level of responsibility and the weight that comes with that. So that I've definitely felt I wouldn't say I had a smooth transition into motherhood. I actually found it quite challenging at times, but best thing ever. And yeah, I have these 3 very funny, very sweet boys in my life. And my husband is Australian. So yeah, we're settled. I spent my first 13 years here in Sydney, where I'm actually dialing in from Sydney tonight because my work is in Sydney. So I kind of fly in, fly out. I work from home and come down to Sydney probably like once a month, depending on what's going on. But home now is Brisbane in Queensland. So amazing climate. It's always warm, even in winter. And yeah, I feel very lucky to live where I live. Yeah.
Wow. I mean, yes, 20 years. That's quite a time to come out.
Mm.
How often do you get back to Ireland?
Well, it's changed now, I think, since, well, 2 things, having kids and since COVID. So pre-kids, pre-COVID, I feel like there was always something. I probably would have been back on average every 18 months or so. It's
Okay.
dropped off a bit now. Obviously, COVID, we were kind of stuck and couldn't get back. So I've been back once with the boys, so that was very surreal because my mom passed away a few years ago, but when I first brought my children home to Ireland, there was 3 of them. My dad had never met any of them. because we had three in 2 years, so it was all a bit nuts. But I suddenly come home after COVID with three kids. It was all a
Yeah.
bit crazy. And we're going to get back later this year, so I'm really looking forward to that.
Wow, yes. Big change. And from the sounds of
Mm.
it, you're pretty well settled. Although you'll love Ireland and visit, it sounds to me like your
Yeah.
home is in Australia. Very
Oh, it's the
interesting.
home word is tricky for me. Like I spoke to Tash about this. I think for a really long time I grappled with that word home and like
Yeah.
what does home mean? Because and to be honest, even my 21 years in Ireland, I've always felt like I'm not sure where I fit or where I belong. And that word home, you have all these tensions that you grapple with when you move away and you feel guilty at times and other times you don't. And I think where I've landed now, Ireland is where I grew up and it is home. But now I've kind of come to the place where actually home doesn't necessarily need to be a place. It can be a feeling like when I'm at home on the couch watching Toy Story with my kids, I feel like I'm home. But when I'm on that Aer Lingus plane flying over the 40 shades of green, I get that tingle and it's home as well. So I've kind of accepted that I've got two homes.
Yeah, and quite often I think and we're awfully apt to think of home as it's a place. I don't think it is a place
Mm,
necessarily.
mm,
I think it's the people you're with.
yeah,
And I think that you create the home. It doesn't almost matter where it is or where you visit. If you're with the people who you love, I think
yeah,
that is your home. Very interesting you talking about school. I didn't get on at school at all either. I
yeah.
didn't I didn't care for school, but the thing that I hated about it was the rules and regulations.
Mm,
I found being in that sort of structured situation didn't suit me at all. I'm not good around lots of structure. I need to be
mm,
able to be sort of more or less free flowing. And it's interesting, it's one of the things when I think about that, one of the things that I find is comfortable for me. I'm not good at preparing for things because if I prepare for things, I worry about, am I getting it right? Am I got everything in the right order? Am I saying things that I need to? Even if I'm doing a speaking engagement, I get, oh, have I missed that line? Have I missed this bit? Oh God, I've gone where I didn't, that's not where I planned to go. And I find that I'm then coming from head,
mm,
not heart. And I need to have the courage to go out there and just think, okay, so I know I need to talk about leadership because that's what my passion is, and that's what I talk about, personal leadership. But all I'd do, and quite often if Emma came with me, I'd say, okay, Ems, just let me think through what is the first line I'm going to come out with. And once I know the very first sentence, then I'm up and running. But if I over
mm,
prepare, I don't do anything like as good a job because I'm too worried about, am I saying the right thing? And I don't come from heart.
yeah.
So it is, it's
That really resonates with me. Yeah, I totally understand what you mean.
yeah, it's funny. So tell me, I mean, you've started, I don't know when you started this leadership journey,
Mhm.
because what is it that suddenly, A, made you think, I'm really interested in leadership?
Mm.
And then at the point where you said, actually, I think we need this in our company. So talk a little bit about that, Pam.
Um, that's a great question because I think, if you asked me 6 years ago, when did I start to lean into leadership? I would have had an answer, but having gone on this journey with the living leader, um, I look back now and I'm like, I wasn't being a leader then in that scenario or that stage, so it's like how you define leadership changes. But so I started out working in pharmacies, and when I came to Australia, I was managing a team in a pharmacy. So I was a manager of a pharmacy. But since 2020, I've been working more on the corporate side and building my career there. So yeah, I've been leading teams for a really long time, but like now with the knowledge and awareness and honesty I can have about it now is I wasn't a leader back then. I was a manager. Sometimes I was a good manager, sometimes I was a terrible manager, but if you asked me back then, I would have thought I knew exactly what I was doing. But yeah, I would say really leaning into leadership more in the last 10 years. And I've done a number of leadership programs. And I felt like I had a pretty good grasp on the difference between management and leadership. I once worked for a great leader that had this really nice way of saying, managers control things, budgets, timelines, tasks, whereas leaders invest in people, encourage them to kind of to follow. And I that really made sense to me. But then when I was introduced to the personal leadership program, I just got this whole new level of depth. Like that is still right, but this whole new level of depth and awareness. So I was first introduced to your amazing program in 2020. And that came about through, I was very lucky to receive one of the coveted scholarships for the Marketing Academy in Australia. And I know you're very good friends with Sherilyn, and she's got an amazing program. And that was a really transformational experience for me. I was new into the C-suite in the marketing space, but honestly, my background really isn't marketing. It was all new, and it was such a daunting process to go into the marketing academy, and I didn't really know what it is because no one knows what it is until they're in there, and then it's the best thing ever. And what Sherilyn's put together is amazing. But my like day two on the first week of the boot camp, so I met Sherilyn on the Monday, and then on the Tuesday I meet another very good friend of yours, Tash. Because I was so fortunate to be in Tash's group back then. And it was that wild week in Australia where COVID had hit. So we're in this bubble of the Marketing Academy and the Living Leader. So I had 2 days with 10 people I'd never met before and Tash. And it was the most extraordinary experience. And while we're in that room, sitting around in armchairs, baring our souls to each other, the world outside was going nuts. And because we were so immersed in it, we weren't really paying attention. And I'd ring my husband that night and he said, like, you can't get toilet paper at the supermarkets. Like, people are panicking, the whole place is going mad. So all of that was happening while we were doing the Living Leader program. It was very surreal. And Tash stepped us through this amazing 2 days where I walked out of there thinking about leadership very differently. I found it really confronting. I said to Tash, because I've been fortunate to see her again recently, and I just felt like she was sitting there in the most kind, caring, supportive way, but holding a mirror up to me. That's what I felt like. And I'd never experienced anything like that before. Like I'd gone on courses, I'd learned about leadership, but the way this program is designed and really makes you, if you choose to lean into it, really actually makes you question yourself. And I was sitting there going, who am I and who do I want to be and what kind of leader do I want to be? What kind of human being do I want to be? And some of the models I found really confronting, but like really have changed how I think, how I live my life. It was the most amazing experience and best leadership program I've ever done, still to this day. And yeah, I was very lucky to then go again with Susie last year because we'd been talking about your question around bringing it to the organization. So our organization structure is a bit complex, but if you think about it, I'm employed by what we refer to as the support office. And then every pharmacy in the network, with there's over 130 Blooms The Chemist pharmacies, they're all individually owned and operated. And it's an amazing model because if you live in a town, your local pharmacy, your local Blooms pharmacy, the owner works there. So, and then the owner, their kids go to school with their customers' kids. They know everyone by name. They know all of your history. It's really a close-knit community feel. It's very special. But then on the flip side, from a brand perspective, there are challenges because, we're talking about 130 plus different owners with different leadership styles, different skill sets, different experience. But one of the things they have consistently asked for over the years when we do feedback surveys on what development needs do you need, they all ask for leadership development. And we'd been talking about this for a while, and I just like it seemed so impossible at the time because I know you're based in the UK, and I just thought, oh well, the best leadership program I've done is this one. But then, you and I and Emmanuel had a chat a few years ago, and we're like, how can we do this? And what was Emmanuel's our CEO, and what was so great, what I love what you did in that conversation, because sometimes I get a bit ahead of myself. Like I get this great idea and I'm like, let's go, we can do this. We can make it all happen. It's going to be amazing. You actually slowed us down and you kind of put you kind of challenged him a little way in a very respectful, thoughtful way to say, why don't you and your leadership team do this first and see if you think it's right? And if you do, you knew Penny, you knew he was going to love it and everyone was going to just think it was the best program, which we did. So we got to do that experience as a leadership team last March with Susie. Susie had come out to do the marketing academy and then she stayed. I think she came early actually. And yeah, it was just very different to doing it with colleagues that I know really well and that we're close with compared to the first time in a room of strangers. But yeah, that was my second time around. And what was really interesting for me was I picked up on concepts that I either hadn't understood the first time or I'd forgotten about, but I'm like, oh, or it just made more sense. Like I got all these new learnings from it. It was amazing. We were all sold. Like, if we can roll this out across the whole organization, this will be the most transformational thing we've ever done. Um, and here we are. So the next steps to that is, all right, we're going to send some people to do CLP so we can have certified trainers in house. And then what's the staged rollout? So that's kind of where we are now. But back to your question around kind of how or why, it's just I've never come across another program like it. I was familiar with some of the models, like in particular, Johari Window is something that we had used in our company for a really long time. But what's unique about your program is how all the models link together, and there's that thread that goes through the whole thing, and it's a lot more holistic and very made me very reflective, and yeah, just asked a lot of questions about myself. But I think at the end of the day, it just is a no-brainer. If we can actually make this happen, not only is it going to improve performance of the entire business, but it's going to change people's lives and, their employee experience and all the good things that will come from it. So it's really exciting.
The thing that I find interesting is what you said earlier, is how in the pharmacies, they're part of the community. People know them, they know
Mm,
each other, they know the children. So it's not just in the business it's going to impact, it's in the communities. And that's what's going to be really interesting as well.
mm.
Um, really interesting. How many of the pharmacists, have you had many of the pharmacists go through the program yet, or haven't you reached that stage yet?
Very early stages, so only a few. So, where we're at, so the entire exec team did the PLP last March, and
Yeah.
then four of us did the CLP with Tash in November, and we then did our pilot PLPs. So, of the pilot PLPs, it was mostly people in our office team, but there was, I feel like maybe about eight pharmacists were involved. Now, some of them actually work on the corporate side, as we would say, but some of them do have their own pharmacies. So where we're at right now is we want to launch this to the pharmacy owners. So by Friday this week, I'm expecting a testimonial from all of those pharmacists that have done it. Because the biggest challenge is how do you explain what this is and what you're going to get until you do it? Like, I don't have the words. So I thought, well, if we can a peer-to-peer approach, so from a pharmacist, particularly a pharmacist who owns a business, because they're all time poor, this means coming out of their business, but what are they
Yeah.
going to get from it? That's where we're at. So yeah, I think next week we'll launch it, and then the plan will be every 6 months we'll run PLP programs. So it's very exciting.
Yeah, that really is. I mean,
Mhm.
I'm going to be so interested. You will share the feedback with me, I hope.
Of course,
I'm
yeah,
going to be
absolutely.
really, really interested to see what it is. How much impact's it had on your home life?
Oh, huge. Like and I'm not just saying this. This program has changed my life. And I said to Tash when she was leaving in November, I feel like she was sent to me for a reason. And she has changed my life twice because that sounds crazy to say because it was 2020 and going through it was so amazing, but doing the CLP with her just took it to a whole other level. And I was like emotionally exhausted afterwards, but at the same time feeling so like having so much clarity and purpose. And yeah, it's like exhausted, but so excited and energized at the same time. It was a very strange feeling. In terms of work and home, huge. Like I said to my pilot group for PLP, I might have even benefited more in my personal life than work, and I've benefited enormously from a work perspective. But it's this is the whole definition of personal leadership, right? It's actually not you're just a leader at work and that's it. It's your whole of life. And so many of the frameworks and the little analogies and insights are so relatable for parenting. Like so much stuff for like, and just the smoggy language and how you think creates a reality. And yeah, I think the responsibility model in 2020 was very confronting for me to think, hang on, I need to take responsibility for my whole own life. Whereas now it's like, and I have three children that I want to grow up to be good humans, that have a positive impact on the world. So yeah, parenting, my marriage, and I actually what I love, and when you said you'd like to hear the feedback, even just from my original the pilot group, which is emerging leaders in our business at the office. What's we actually had a coffee catch up yesterday, Penny. So they eight of them have all been doing their buddy work since the program, and it's our first time getting together since Christmas and New Year's. So we met and had a coffee, and yeah, they were all already using it. And like, two of them shared stories about doing the vision exercise with their spouses and just speaking to their kids differently. And it's, yeah, like hearing that stuff. And I was the same, my husband and I have been doing the vision exercise every year and friendships. And yeah, I think it's more on the personal side than the work side, but yeah, it's had a huge influence on me.
Oh, I'm so glad. I mean, one of the things you said earlier, and I think this is so true, you said when you did the program a second time, when you did it with Blooms as
Mm.
opposed to when you did it with the Marketing Academy,
Yeah.
there were bits you thought, did we do that? I don't remember that, or whatever. We've had some
Mm.
CEOs who've done it six times because whatever company they go to, they take us in and then we end up doing the program with their top team. And
Mhm.
really interesting, very similar. They'll say, we didn't do this on the last program. Yeah, you did. No, we didn't. Yes, let me remind you, or look at your notes from
Yeah.
previously. And I think with the program, you will take on board what you're ready to hear at that time. I can still remember Emma.
Mm.
Emma came on the second program I ever ran, and she thought it was amazing. And then about a year, 18 months later, she changed her role and gone joined another company. She said, Mum, I think I need to do it again. So she came to do it a second time. She said, Mum, you changed the program. No, I haven't, darling. Yes, you have. This is on it. It wasn't on it before. Yeah, it was, darling. Well, no, it wasn't. Look back at your notes. She'd even made notes on it.
Mm.
And if you're
Yeah.
not ready to hear it at that time, you'll take on board what you're ready to hear. Now, that's worth you thinking about because you're
Mm.
getting together with your pilot group. So when you did your pilot program with eight people, experiencing you delivering the program for the first time, there may be bits of it that they may not remember. So you might
Mm.
consider saying, okay, so are there any bits that it's worth me going over again? For example, give get. Quite often people don't
Mm.
remember that bit. Quite often
Yeah.
smog language. Okay, how often are you putting pressure on yourself? I've got to do that today. I should do this. I ought to manage that, whatever it is. Um,
Yeah.
one of the things, and I say this often, you talk about also management and leadership. You think about typically how people are promoted. And this isn't said with blame, this is just said with
Mm.
observation over years. what you can get is you can get your lawyer, your salesperson, your engineer, your pharmacist, doesn't matter what it is, and you're really good at what you do. And you're so good that somebody comes along one day and says, "You're so good, we're going to promote you because we think that you'd be great as a supervisor or manager or whatever it happens to be. But you're now going to have a team of people reporting to you. Might only be two or three, might be more, whatever." And you go home on Friday as this pharmacist, engineer, salesperson, whatever, and you come back on Monday as a manager. And there's meant to have been some
Mm.
sort of instant osmosis over the weekend that suddenly you know how to be a manager. And of course, it's a different skill set that you wouldn't even
Mm.
know. And and I know this is true because I've had people in C-suite, top teams of big corporates who are saying, God, I wish I'd done this years ago. Because
Mm.
what's coming, there may be leaders in their heart, what's coming out of their mouth is straightforward management. Because think about how you begin to think when you take on your first management role and you've had no education as to what management and leadership
Mm.
is. You think, oh my God, I'm now managing a team. It's up to me to motivate them. Oh my God, I've got to know the answers for them. I've got to be able to guide them, help them, make sure that I can give all the advice that I can for them to be the best they can be. So it
Mm.
drives you through caring and wanting to be the best you can be and help them. It drives you into the direction of management and away from leadership because suddenly you start taking responsibility for all of them, their motivation, their everything. And it's not where it needs to be. I would often go in and ask people on the program quite early on. I'd say, tell me, how many of you think that your role is to motivate your guys? And virtually everybody puts their hand up. And
Mm.
I say, I'm sorry, I disagree with you. I don't think it is. Your role is not to motivate them because otherwise, what's going to happen when you're not there? Oh dear, where's the boss? We're not motivated anymore. I said, your role is to inspire them to motivate themselves. That requires a different skill set. And so
Yeah.
it's not surprising that we get people going down the direction of management. And I genuinely believe, obviously it's not true all of the time, but I genuinely believe you take on a management role, you want to be successful and you want everybody in your team to be
Mm.
successful. So because you care, you end up stepping further and further into management and it works. So you keep doing it.
Yeah.
And suddenly, I will share with you, I can still remember there was somebody who came through a program. This was in a retail organization. And his area, his division, whatever you wanted to call it, always got the best results every month. And he still felt that his team were not delivering as well as they could. They could do better. Whatever he tried, it wasn't working. And he came through the program and he realized that the problem was him. He
Mm.
was so busy giving them all the answers and helping them and doing everything he possibly could. He'd educated them how not to think for themselves. And he found it so difficult to step away. And so here was he, absolutely driving performance, push style, if you like, all the time.
Mm.
He put himself forward to become a trainer so that he could help himself really try and hold on to doing it differently. And he said for the
Mm.
first couple of months, he was convinced that they'd fall backwards and not do as well as they had before without him pushing it. And he said the first couple of months they plateaued, they didn't step up. He said, and then performance started to go like this. And he realized the thing that was holding it back was him.
Mm. Wow.
It is, I mean, it really is. It's crazy. It's interesting.
But you can see how it happens, right?
Yeah,
Like the way you tell us, you're like, yeah, because and it's not out of ill intent. You're wanting to be helpful,
yeah.
but yeah, you're actually causing longer term issues.
So that's what's going to be so interesting when you think, because the way you describe that your organization operates, we would
Mm.
almost describe it here as a franchise operation. Each of the pharmacists are their own bosses of their own areas. And so they're likely to be more inclined towards management um, because of caring, because it's their own little companies, their own little area. And so they will be likely to be driving performance and thinking that they're helping people the best they can be. It's going to be so interesting to see what happens. So
Yeah.
interesting.
Oh, I agree. And it's even so similar to a franchise, but even less so. So it's a license agreement. So really all of the major decisions, it's their business, it's their decisions. So we can influence and provide support and services and toolkits. But yeah, absolutely it's their business and it's their team and everyone's going to have a different style. What I think is going to be even more interesting in this scenario is the nature of the business and the nature of the profession. So if you think about a pharmacist, very intelligent person, had to do very well at school to even get a spot at uni, then had to do a very difficult university degree. That's it's science. It's all about medicine and science. What they don't teach you at pharmacy school is people skills, things like HR, leading a team. They teach you pharmacy. Then these pharmacists go out into the world and either become a pharmacist that is employed by somebody else or a pharmacist that chooses to go in and into ownership. But they've missed all of those development that, in the corporate world or in a lot of other businesses would be part of the upskilling and the readiness for business ownership. So, and we've got amazing pharmacists working at Blooms The Chemist that own businesses and lead very high performing teams, but they haven't had exposure to any of this sort of leadership development. So I think it will be confronting for some of them. And yeah, I think there'll be a lot of, aha moments and awakening around management versus leadership. And then the other little nuance to this, which I think is very interesting as well, again, because of the nature of the industry, pharmacists are trained that you can't make a mistake because if you make a mistake doing the job that they do, it could be a disaster, right? It could be something really serious. So there's also that kind of mindset of perfection, which is actually a really good thing on one hand from a running a business and efficiencies and performance perspective and not making mistakes with something as important as people's medicine. But on the other side, then there's kind of maybe it's harder to innovate or, this kind of idea of safe to try new things and fail. So yeah, I think it's going to be a very, very interesting experience. The pharmacists we've had that have gone through it have thought the program has been amazing and we're getting some great testimonials coming through. But yeah, I think it's a very different lens from a corporate world to a small business owner, and then the added complexity of in this specific industry, and how important the service they offer and the accuracy of it is. So yeah, it's going to be very interesting.
It is. And what you're talking about here, yes, it is different. But in my observation, there is a lot of similarities with other industries. You
Yeah.
think of all the industries where safety is key.
Mm,
Okay, there's a company we're working with right now, which is a mining industry. You think how key safety is. And
mm,
people see it or are inclined to see it as a process issue. These are the rules that you absolutely have to stick to be safe. Okay. Now, that's not untrue.
mm,
But the challenge is if it comes just as a diktat, this is what you have to do people really take responsibility? It's how do you
yeah.
get them, each individual, to take ownership for their own safety, for their friends, their colleagues, their safety? How do you get them to think like that? And that's where sometimes people find it very difficult. A lot of the time, I don't think that safety is a process issue. I think it's a
Mm,
leadership issue.
mm,
And do you know, you love Tash, you know her now very well. I
yeah.
can still remember in the very, very early days when she was delivering a program. This has nothing to do with safety, but it has similar thinking. She rang me up on the evening. She was delivering a program. She rang me up on the evening of day one, and she was really sounding very stressed because there was one person on the program who she thought just wasn't getting it and kept challenging. and Tash was so caring. She just wanted them to get it. And we talked for a while and I kept listening. And then I just very quietly said to her, Tash, who's taking responsibility here? And she went, Oh my God. She said, I am. I'm trying to take responsibility for her getting it. That's not where it lies.
Yeah. Mm.
And it's quite challenging to think like that. And one of the things that as you say, in the senior position in the company, and you're going to be doing a lot of follow-up with your group, I'd be interested to know how easy you're finding it to develop the skill of asking amazing, empowering questions.
Mm.
How easy are you finding that?
Oh, I still really struggle. Yeah. Yeah. There's a few things I'm still struggling with. So when you said earlier about give get and smoggy language, so when what's round two with Susie, that I was like, I don't think I did this. This is all new. I did, but yeah, it like you said, I it obviously wasn't. Well, the first time there were so many aha moments. I think my brain was maxed out and forgot half of it. But the give get now resonates so much with me, and yeah, I think about that a lot. Smoggy language, I'm getting. I was a big shudder. It should all over the place. So I'm really conscious of that language now. But the empowering questions is something I have to work really hard at, as is expressing appreciation. I think of it all the time, but I'm having to work very hard at actually expressing it and telling people. I think it just goes all the ways back to how I was raised and I don't know, a cultural thing, but it's something that I completely see the value in. I've seen the value in it. I've been doing my gratitude and appreciation journal, and that's helped a lot. But even going from writing it to then going and telling the person is still something that I'm having to work on, as is the empowering questions.
Okay, that's interesting. Have you worked out why you find it difficult?
I also find hearing appreciation difficult. So I think one, you do, there's so many different assessments out there. I've done a number of values assess. My number one value is humility. So I think there's this thing in me where just be humble, do lots of work, but you don't need to make a big deal about it. So but that is more about me personally, whereas I believe people should receive appreciation and recognition, but it's not something that comes naturally to me. Yeah, it is
Yeah,
interesting.
it is interesting. And developing, how are you going about developing your ability to ask good questions?
Just trying to shut up more. Like actually, so first of all, leaning into the listening and like really, that's been another huge learning for me, the power of listening. And as Tash would put it, staying silent for longer than is comfortable. Like you're sitting there and there's silence and well, I feel it in the room and I'm like, oh, someone needs to say something, but just sitting with it. And then the person just keeps going with their thought. So what I do is stay quiet and let the other person talk, and then when there's really a pause, try to lean into it. So that's probably the biggest thing that I've been trying over the last few months.
Okay.
And then yeah, if I hear, the smoggy language, oh, I could never do this, or what if you knew you could do this, or what if you knew there was a way? So there's the hook where if I hear the smoggy language and someone says, "Oh, I should just do this," or I will never be able to do that. That kind of fires something in my brain to say, "Oh," and that's kind of my in. But yeah,
Okay.
it's just going to take practice.
You see, one of the things that I did was I had a notebook, which was my questions notebook. And after
Mm,
I came out of any session, if it was a one-on-one with one of my children, if it was in a workshop where I'd thought, oh God, I missed some opportunity question, I'd always sit down. If it was with a client, I'd had a Zoom call with a couple of clients or whatever. Always afterwards, I'd give myself a few minutes and ask myself a question along the lines of, if I knew that session could have been even better if I'd asked some great questions, what questions might I have asked? And then
okay.
whatever came, okay. And then I think, okay, if I'd asked them, okay, so if you knew that there's a real opportunity to do something different here, what's the first thoughts come into your head? Or whatever. I'd come up with some questions and I'd write them in the notebook. So I began to get a notebook of lots and lots and lots of questions. Now,
Mm,
I found it very challenging personally to develop my ability to ask good questions. I really didn't find it easy. So I did this notebook all the time. And now you ask any of our trainers, any of them, they say, oh, Penny can I just pour the questions out all the time. But that's because I worked at it. It took me a year to
mm,
become really skilled at it. So
okay.
it's worth thinking about how can I
Mm,
develop my ability, because even when you get together with your group, the pilot program, it's one of the things that I used to say to people because when you leave the program, your head's like this. It's, oh my God, I can't take all this on board.
yeah.
And people say, well, how do you remember it? How do you hold on to it? I said, well, just select one thing this week that you want to work on. So this
Mm,
week, okay, if you knew there's one thing you could focus on this week, what would it be? Ah, appreciation. Okay. So if you now knew that you can look for something good and tell people in a meaningful, caring way, how are you going to go about this? So whatever, okay. And I'd say get them to focus. So with your group, your pilot group, when you get together, or you could decide that once every other week you send out an incisive question to them via email. Okay, if you knew there's one thing you could focus on this week, what would you choose it to be? If you knew that
mm,
this
I love
week,
that.
if you knew that this week you can find one new person to appreciate every day, who you're going to select today, or whatever,
Mm,
so that what you're doing all the time is bringing back to their conscious mind that which they already have learned. If you knew that you can focus on what you choose to give this week, what would you choose to focus on? Or whatever, think of one bit that you might choose to get them to think about every other week or something. So it's bringing back to their conscious awareness that which they've already learned but may not have remembered, because they will all
mm,
have the same thing that you found. If all six of those then went and did the program a second time with a different group, you can bet they'd say, we didn't do that on the program. I don't. I know we didn't. There'd be bits they haven't remembered because they weren't ready to hear them at this time.
mm. I love those tips. Love the notebook because, yeah, I've also got a terrible memory, so I do write things down a lot. And yeah, they're really engaged. Like I said, we just caught up yesterday, so I like those. Thank you.
That's all right. Big pleasure. So when you look back on everything that you've learned over the last, God, it's 2 years now. No, how long ago did you do the Marketing Academy?
Longer. My first time was 2020, so 6 years next month.
Oh my goodness me.
Mm.
So what are the bits that you think have had the biggest impact on your life?
Um, I think you are spot on about your readiness to like to really connect with something. So I think it's changed. So I think the biggest impact, and there's two, well, probably three, but two that have connected very closely for me is your thinking creates your reality and the responsibility model. Um, and so I'll talk about your thinking creates your reality first. I could at times be a glass half empty person, not all the time, but if there was something that was bothering me, I'd kind of get into a bit of a spiral about it. And, it certainly didn't help or make things better. So one of the big takeouts is like taking some, first of all, catching it. So I think the awareness across everything, it's just, first of all, the awareness and then leaning into it and making, and being, so awareness, then being conscious and then choosing a different path. So I don't know, anything from, oh, it's raining today and I've just blow dried my hair and it's going to be all frizzy, to just shifting your thinking to no, it's going to be a great day and who cares about that? And I just won't bother blow drying my hair. Like just really simple things. And that's at work and at home as well. Like, I'd get really stressed if the kitchen was messy. And I'd be like, oh, this is going to take me ages. Versus now I'm like, I can deal with that later. I don't have to do that right now. Like really little simple things, but that had a huge impact on me. And then that I think was really closely connected to the responsibility model for me. That was probably the most confronting model for me, certainly back in 2020. But even still, so 2020 to then 2025 last year, and then really in the CLP, that unlocked the power of it for me because I've kind of shifted from, oh, this is a bit confronting and a lot to think about to really leaning into it and taking responsibility, funny enough. So yeah, what I mean by that, and for anyone, I suppose anyone who's listening to this, who might not be familiar with the model, and we don't have enough time for me to really get into all of my life events that I was like, oh my God. But at a really high level, what the model talks about is you come into the world and straight away, what you kind of experience around you and the behaviors that you see help you shape the beliefs that you have through life. And as you go through life, what happens is the more you witness those behaviors, the more you experience those things, the more it reinforces the belief that you have. And what can actually happen is this kind of pattern or cycle, and that it can be positive or negative. But if I think about my life, I have I have many, but I certainly have examples of being trapped in that negative pattern. And I experience the behaviors more, and then that reinforces my belief, and then that becomes my reality, and then I just go round and round and round in that loop. So when I was first introduced to this model, I like it really kind of shook me to go, oh, hang on. And I like, because I'm in this loop, you just keep going around. And I think this is probably one that a lot of people would find hard to resonate with if they've never been stuck in a cycle like that and they don't understand it. But there's many cycles, and we all have different experiences in our life, and we've all witnessed different events and behaviors, and we all have different beliefs. But yeah, actually, what I took out of that was whatever has happened in my life, in anyone's life, the past is the past. I can just stay in this, attitude of, oh, bad things happen to me, and then bad things keep happening to me. Or I can say, do you know what? Whatever has happened has happened. I can't change that, but I can take responsibility and have some control around the rest of my life moving forward. And that was like such a like blew my mind apart to actually get that. And then the thing your thinking creates your reality just fed like right into that because it's all so intertwined. And yeah, taking some ownership of how I wanted to move forward with my life on different aspects was huge for me. And really that was 2020. Again in 2025 going a bit deeper, and then with yeah, like late 2025 in the CLP, because you just go so deep in the CLP. And it's a bit like I had the I benefit an amazing experience of doing it with three colleagues and who we knew each other fairly well, but you come out of CLP and it's like you've been in a group therapy session. It's not therapy, but you're unpacking your own trauma and life experiences and absolutely bearing your soul and ugly crying. It was amazing. And it took it to this whole other level where that one model is probably the one that has resonated so much with me. Oh, and the other one, of course, that's really closely linked to that is the stimulus response. So choosing how you take a breath and choose how to respond to things. And I think again, that's such a valuable one for parenting because, I've got three little boys and someone takes their toy and they think it's the end of the world and they start, kicking off. But yeah, trying to coach them now at this stage on you can choose how you respond to this. You're actually going to make it way worse for yourself and have a terrible day, or you can just take a minute and think about it differently. So yeah, like it sounds so simple, but yeah, it just took me a really long time to get some of those concepts.
Yeah, and it's one of the things I still have to deal with. I'm very inclined to be reactive. All my life I've been reactive, deal with something quickly. Part of it is, of course, I had six children very young, very quickly. I had the first one at
Mm.
21, the last one at 29. So I was sort of permanently pregnant, really. Um, but, you end up, there's always speed. And so it's much easier to just react very quickly. and it's something that I
Mm.
still have to work on. I mean,
Okay.
your three boys are very lucky because you've learnt this when they're very young.
Yeah.
Um, and the same with
Oh, I
Emma.
still react. Don't worry. I lose my mind several times a day. So yeah, I'm trying to lean into the take the put. I have a moment of choice here. I get to choose how I respond. And it's again, it's the cycle. It's like so much of it is okay, well if I start screaming the house down, like yeah, it's that cycle and what's that going to teach them? So yeah, trying to lean into it. But yeah, I mean so many life skills from this program. So it's amazing.
One of the things I don't think I've ever asked this of somebody on doing these conversations. Um, Tell me a little bit about what it's like when you go back to home, having learnt all this, and your partner has not been through the program
Yeah.
and has no understanding about what it is you're learning. How do you how do you handle that?
That's a great question, and I'm laughing because it's hilarious. And I've the pilot group, we've been talking about this as well. So, A, how do we actually tell people in our own organization what this is and how much they're going to get out of it? And then B, how do you come out of this experience, like this life-changing experience, and then go home and sit on the couch and like, how do you explain it? So I just kind of step him through it. So what I would say first is I'm someone who needs a bit of time to process and reflect and kind of let it sit with me. And he, we've been together for a long time, so he gets that. But I will take him through the models that have been really like whoa for me. And I think, and then there might be models that I think would really benefit him as well. We've done the vision exercise together. And yeah, it's just not all at once because it's a lot, but like slowly over time saying, oh, and there's also this. And I think I had the benefit with my husband that I'd done bits of this work, nothing as comprehensive as this program, but Johari window, for example, he's familiar with. Um, and talking about the communication behaviors is different to other kind of models that I would have looked at before. But just being able to talk about how it plays out at work, but also how it plays out at home. So luckily he's interested in it. So I do talk because I come back and I'm so energized and I think it's the best thing ever and I want to talk about it. But I also am conscious not to kind of overload all at once because it's a lot. And I'm also probably not making sense. And if you don't have all of the charts up around the wall like you do in the room, it's like, what is she talking about? Um, but yeah, I think a lot of people find that a bit hard, and some of what I've heard from other people that have done the program is like it's choosing your timing to say I went on this amazing experience. I really want to tell you about it, but let me just start with this one thing, and kind of going from there. But
Yeah.
choosing your timing. So if I've been away, I was away for a full week at CLP week one. If I came home and he was exhausted and burnt out and he'd had the kids on his own the whole week, that's probably not the time to be like, let me tell you about the. So I think picking your timing and the context, like having some quiet time. But yeah, it's I would say slowly over time and then like also saying at home these are the things that I really want to lean into. I loved the story in the CLP training videos around I think one of the participants had banned the word cat with their kids or something like that. And
Yeah.
I was like, oh, because I hear that 10 times a day. I can't build the Lego or I can't do this. And you just jump in to help them. And there's another doing it with your children's interesting, What if you could find a way to do that by yourself? But yeah, picking your timing, and I think that's definitely yeah, that but luckily he's very interested in it. And what I think is amazing is people who've gone on the program and have taken some of it away with their partner and like workshopped some of it, whether it's the vision or whatever it might be in their home life. Just like it's the ripple effect. Like, you've created this program and it's a bit like what you said about the communities earlier. It's not just the people who go on the program that benefit. The ripple effect is huge. And if they are in a position to share that with someone that they love and they get a little bit of something out of it, like yeah, that's amazing.
Well, we had one company. the HR director decided that her and three of the trainers, they would at weekends offer programs for partners.
Yeah.
So what they did was the partners, so many of them were saying, "Oh my God, I wish my husband or wife, really understood this because it would help us
Mm.
bring up the children." So they started, all they did was buy licenses so they could take partners through. And that was,
Someone actually said that in my pilot, like, oh, I wonder if, down the track we could send the partners. And I remember as well, weren't you did this extremely brave thing where you facilitated the Think Out Loud session between couples somewhere?
yeah,
Where it was, yeah, I was like, wow, yeah, that would be. And I think you said there was someone in the room who had never felt like they'd been listened to in their entire marriage. Like just the power of being quiet and letting someone talk.
yeah, yeah. Can you believe that the hour is just about up?
Is it
I
really?
know, I know.
Wow.
So before we wind up, is there anything that you think you would like to share with people that could really have an impact on them before we wind up? Is there anything that we haven't talked about you think really like to just share that?
Um, I suppose not knowing exactly who'll be watching it, what I would say is I think it's never too late to start this sort of work on yourself. So yes, it's a leadership program, but it really does force you to look in the mirror at yourself and question um where you are in your life. Who are you? Are you happy with who you are and where you're spending your time and energy? Who do you want to be? What legacy do you want to leave? What impact do you want to have? Do you want to help develop other leaders? Because I think what can happen is people go through their whole career and they're in a senior position in a company and they kind of sometimes maybe think that they know it all or I feel I'm a big believer in lifelong learning, and I think it's important to be honest with ourselves on where you're actually at. And you might think you know a lot of about something about leadership, but a program like this is it's really about you, where you're at. Ultimately, it's about developing other leaders, but you've got to start with yourself and decide what kind of person you want to be. So I would just recommend anyone who feels like, you know what, I'm doing really well and I'm in a really senior position, but I haven't done any development in a while because I don't need to. It's a bit like therapy. I think everyone would benefit from therapy, and I think everyone would benefit from this program, no matter if you're in that scenario where you're really senior in your career or you're just starting out. Like, geez, I would love for my boys before they finish school and go out into the workforce to be exposed to this sort of material because it's your whole life. And that's my thing. It's never too late to do development or too early. And yeah, kind of just taking the ego to the side and maybe we don't know everything and maybe there is an opportunity to learn and just be a better person. Mm.
Pam, thank you. I think that's a lovely thing to end on. Pam, thank you for your time. Thank you for doing this from across the other side of the world. I've thoroughly enjoyed our conversation and I appreciate your time. And I look forward when I come to Australia to actually meeting you live face to face. That would be very special.
I would
So,
love
Pam,
that. I would love that.
yeah, thank you. And no doubt we'll meet one day.
Penny, thank you. So, because I need to work on this, and this one is so easy, I did want to tell you how much I appreciate you and your story and what an inspiration you are and what you have created with this because it is a transformational program. It's the best leadership program I've ever done. It's more than a leadership program. And yeah, when I actually sit back and think about the ripple effect and what you've created, it's really extraordinary. So thank you. I appreciate you very much. And Tash and Susie and Emma and the whole team, amazing humans. And yeah, I think what you've created is just so powerful. And I'm excited. I'll keep you updated on how it goes at Blooms with rolling it out to more people.
Thank you so much, Pam.